IMD Monsoon Forecast. Why is it so important to study? How to see Andaman and Nicobar Islands from strategic lens. And Iran-Israel escalation could cast shadow on India's oil trade. How? Hello everyone, I am Manas Srivastava and I am here with the 3 must reads from the Indian Express today. आज की तारीख है 16 April 16th, and before going ahead, I'll just remind you about the UPSC key. I hope आपने कल का UPSC की अपने newspaper के साथ पढ़ा होगा, and I'm sure it must have made your newspaper reading a easy and a fruitful task. Alright, remember you have to make UPSC key a habit along with the newspaper reading. Now let's come to the first pick of today. The first important pick comes from the front page. Now this is a news which is related to rainfall. This is the news which will be important for your geography point of view, क्योंकि यहाँ पे कुछ ऐसे terms हैं related to monsoon, rainfall, forecast कि becomes very important in your not only from your perspective of prelim but also when mains kind of answer come for your competitive exams, current affairs, and so on and so forth. Now, look at the headline. It says above normal rainfall in most part of the country, IMD Monsoon Forecast. Okay. Now, the other thing which is there, it's written pockets in east, northeast, northwest may see less rainfall. And the red line, which is above the headline, tells you that 106% of long period average rainfall expected. Now let's look at the first paragraph to understand the context, and then we'll go ahead. It says India is likely to receive above normal rainfall this monsoon. The Indian Meteorological Department said in its first long range forecast for the season on Monday. And the country as a whole is expected to get 106% of the long period average rainfall. Now, please remember this LP as a term is also very important. Okay, so in this article, and this is how newspaper articles are written, कि वो आपको ये terms भी mention करेंगे, तो उसको underline करना बहुत जरूरी है. Now, this is the first time in a decade. Now, why is this particular news very important? The reason is this is the first time in a decade that the IMD has predicted above normal rainfall at the first stage itself, nearly 45 days ahead of the beginning of the 4 months monsoon season. It is usually more conservative with its prediction in the first stage. Okay, so that's why this becomes very important. कि वैसे तो IMD is very conservative of forecasting or you telling about the rainfall in its very first stage, but this time it seems to be so sure that it's telling you beforehand. Now, why is rainfall very important and why are we talking about this particular news so much is because that rainfall पे हमारी economy काफी हद तक depend करती है, about our farmers, agriculture and like sectors, but also the economy as a whole. One dry spell can cause so much harm to our economy. Therefore, people wait for predictions of rainfall, and then the policies and other things are framed accordingly also. So that is why rainfall is so important, and therefore you have to have a knowledge about it. Now look at this next paragraph, which says India as a whole normally receives 870 mm of rainfall during the monsoon season. Okay, so you must underline receives 870 mm of rainfall. This is referred to as LPA or normal, which is currently the average of 1971 to 2020 period. Now, according to the IMD rainfall, now this is something which is very important from the perspective of objective prelims kind of examination, जिसमें options दिया जा सकता है. ये line आप underline कर लीजिए, note it down somewhere. According to IMD, rainfall between 96% and 104% of this 50-year average is considered normal. Less than 90% is considered deficient, and 90 to 95% is below normal, and 105 to 110% is above normal. ठीक है, तो मैं इसको कैसे एग्जाम में पूछ सकता हूँ? मैं 4 ऑप्शन बना सकता हूँ, उसमें से एक कुछ गड़बड़ कर सकता हूँ, and I would ask you which one of them is correct, which one of them is not correct. इस पे डिपेंड किया जा सकता है बिकॉज दिस इज कमिंग आउट बाय आईएमडी की तरफ से आ रहा है, सो इट बिकम्स very important. It's an important organization which is basing this data, and that's why it's important for you to note it down. Also, if you see another paragraph which mentions rains during the June-September monsoon season accounts for 75% of India's annual rainfall. Therefore, this June to September months are very important, to see how much rain happened, okay, and all these things. So rain के लिए ये 3-4 महीने बहुत important होते हैं, ठीक है? और जो नेक्स्ट पैराग्राफ है वो सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट पैराग्राफ, बिकॉज इट टेल्स यू दैट what are the indicators which decide monsoon and what are the indicators which have decided above normal monsoon. Now this particular article is being, or this particular paragraph is being sourced from Mrityunjay Mahapatra, who is IMD Director General, who tells us why is it above normal. So it says, this year multiple indicators were favoring above normal rainfall, Mahapatra said. Primary among these was the transition of the weakening El Nino in the Pacific Ocean into a neutral condition ahead of the monsoon onset, and the likely emergence of La Nina towards the later half of the season. So El Nino and La Nina, these are the two terms. I'm sure अगर आप geography पढ़ रहे होंगे तो you would know these terms. It's time to go back to your static part of syllabus, to your static books, to your whatever books you are concerning, to your notes, and just revise these concepts. Very important concepts for the perspective of examination. And it continues, the alternating phases of El Nino and La Nina in the equatorial Pacific Ocean off the coast of South America that correspond to the abnormal warming and cooling of the sea surface in that area strongly influences global weather patterns, including the Indian monsoon. El Nino is associated with suppressed rainfall during the Indian monsoon, while La Nina is known to help rainfall actively. So this one paragraph is full of information. Okay, it is a very potential question for your exam. Okay, and then you can read the other things and make it a very geography revision based article, and please pay attention to it, and let's see in the coming months if this forecast is how far it is proved to be correct. But before this, what we have to understand are these concepts, El Nino, La Nina, and so on and so forth. All right. So this is an important article for various reasons I've already mentioned. Now, this is my first pick. Now, my second pick comes from the explained page. When you go to the explained page today, there is an expert explained by Bishwajit Das Gupta, and it says that he's a vice admiral retired and a former commander-in-chief of the Eastern Naval Command. All right. So whenever an expert writes, okay, and Indian Express says that he's an expert, it's very important to understand, because this is from an expert point of view. We'll get a lot of important insights for our exams. Now, Andaman and Nicobar have been in news lately for this reason of strategic military infrastructural development, and therefore there are many articles and many editorials which will keep on coming. It doesn't mean that you have read a few articles so you should ignore the others. Just try to see what you do not know so far so you can concentrate on it. अब जैसे कि विश्वजीत दास गुप्ता जी यहाँ पे लिखते हैं, and we already know the context, but we'll read the first paragraph. The transformation of India's Look East policy into a robust Act East policy. Okay, so you should know what is India's Look East policy and Act East policy. इसको आप किसी भी static international relation or polity book में जाएंगे, you will get this. So this is a realization of the critical importance of ocean power and the rapid enhancement in the capabilities of Chinese PLA Navy. Now, PLA Navy is also in news, so pay attention. Have brought a degree of seriousness to the imperative of developing Indian island territories in general and the Andaman and Nicobar group in particular. The recent thrust on developing strategic infrastructure, both civilian and military, pay attention, both civilian and military, on the island is welcome and decades overdue. The neglect of this strategic island group betrays a lack of strategic maritime vision in the decades since independence. Now, before going ahead, just take a look at the map. Very important. This is such a good map. You have all important places marked. You have some important islands marked. Look at for the example, look at the location of Malacca Strait, proposed Kiare or Kara Canal, and then Sabang is one place, then Greater Nicobar Islands, Coco Islands, Port Blair, and look at the places of the India, Myanmar, and all these things countries. Just pay attention to them. Look it for a good 5 minutes. All right. And then when you read the first paragraph, the first question which is answered, that what is the strategic importance of Andaman and Nicobar Island from the perspective purely of geography. तो आज के हमारे आर्टिकल बहुत geography oriented हो गए हैं. You will get to know about these very important places: Malacca Strait, Coco Island, Sabang, Indira Point, Gulf of Thailand, Kara Canal. Then you have also a mention of different countries. Then you have these straits, important straits, like for example Mumbai Vatar Strait. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong, but it's an important strait. Then of course Malacca. Then you have also mention of UN clause. So all these things become very important, which you have to note down. Look at the map. For example, UN clause के बारे में आपको पता होना चाहिए. What is it and why is it so important? Then, of course, there are three means oriented questions kind of things. Like, first of all, why has the pace of strategic being so slow in Andaman and Nicobar? There are various reasons given. For example, realization that a island can be so critical for India's security. One is that. Okay, then second is difficulty of this distance from the from the mainland. Okay, then complex procedures like environment clearance, then challenges of coordination of ministry, because in this island it's not just that it's a very the development is only one sided. There have to be development from different sectors, so you have different ministries to collaborate. So one difficulty is that. And finally, the conflict between the long term strategic vision and this uh, shorter political gains kind of thing. So all these reasons have kept this island, or Andaman and Nicobar, for so long not the focus of the strategy. But why is it important to read this article? Obviously from the mains perspective or from the descriptive perspective, wo to hai hi, but also to understand the geography, the strategic locations and geography. So you see, security issue, defense, international relations, everything is connected to also geography. Okay, so ये चीज आपको समझना है. That's why I say connect the dots, connect the syllabus, connect the subjects. ठीक है, इस तरह से आप ये particular article पढ़िए, explainer पढ़िए. And my last read today is again a little unusual read from what's going on, but a very important read. Why I'm saying unusual? Because this is about Iran-Israel conflict. Most of the news which we'll cover will talk about what is happening there, what India is doing, what does India stand, and all these. But this particular article from the economy page, written by Sukalp Sharma on Iran-Israel escalation, could cast shadow on India's oil trade. It's also linking this war with, economy. And therefore, it's giving you very important aspects of economy and oil trade and India and connection with this Middle East region. Now, just look at this, the first paragraph. It says, any escalation in the Iran-Israel conflict could impact India by way of costlier crude oil imports, as geopolitical tension in West Asia would bump up risk premiums, apart from fueling concerns of potential supply disruption from the oil-rich region. According to industry insiders, while the situation is still developing and it would take a few days to, assess the real risk to regional and global oil flows, international oil price could see high volatility in the immediate to near term. Okay, now apart from this, so you understand what is happening, but why is this a problem? Okay, and what it can cause. So just look at these modern paragraphs. For example, some basic fact about India and oil is India is world's third largest consumer of crude oil and depends on import to meet over 85% of its requirement. Given the country's extremely high import dependency, India's economy is highly sensitive to oil volatility. Apart from the inflationary prices, high oil prices have implication for India's trade balance, foreign exchange reserves, the value of rupee, and the overall health of the economy. Now, it is also talked about that does not import Iranian oil, but then China does, and if the situation arises, both the country will depend too much on Russian oil, and then the situation is going to be a little difficult. So you have to understand from the perspective of oil trade, the crude oil, and overall economy impact of this particular war. That's all from me today. We'll be back tomorrow again with three reads. Manas.srivastava at indianexpress.com is my email ID. Please write to me. That's all. Think smart, work hard, conquer your goals.